who's at the school of choice, he has identified about 23 students who will be working with us on election day. And what we're planning to do is, Leo and I have talked about having each of those students write a paper describing their experience, the experience that they had on election day, and he will pass along their paper to me, and I might be able to use some of their comments as a training model, for our election work in the future. Now, we've done this in the past before with some of the mock students, and we had varied opinions on if they liked it or if they didn't like it. But I think it's important that we at least have a starting point. This election is very historic for a lot of different reasons, as it relates to both political parties. And with that in mind, the history may be made on either side. Everybody wants to be involved. So the calls that we're receiving in our office are a variety of calls where people may want to work the polls, they want to do this, they want to do that. And I guess as a part of the formation of this coalition was a result of all the calls that we received from all the fraternities and sororities in the city, and said, hey, wait a minute, you guys, get together, form something, do something. I'd love to be able to use everybody in the office, but I can't. Having said all of that, this has probably been the longest presidential campaign process in the country. And of course, we're about to come to a culmination of that entire process. With that in mind, some of the voter registration groups set goals in the state of Michigan in terms of how many registered voters, new voters, they wanted to register in the city of Flint as well as in Detroit. And from what I heard about some of the statistics, in the city of Flint, they wanted to register 10,000 new voters. In the city of Detroit, they wanted to register another 100,000. Now, the close of registration for people to register to vote for this election, if they had not been previously registered, was Monday, October the 6th at 5 p.m. My staff, as I mentioned before, working 24/7 to try to get all of those new names into the system prior to the election, so that each new voter will receive a voter identification card that can be used as other kinds of identification. So that identification card will include information in terms of where they will go vote. It gives them the name of their congressional district, or their congressional district number, their house number, as well as their county commission district and their city board district. In addition to that, we are inundated also with requests for absentee ballots. As of today, we have processed 3,026 absentee ballots that have been placed in the mail, of which a large number of them are military requests, as well as requests from what I would call expatriates. Those are people who are Americans residing in foreign countries. It's the largest number of military requests that I've ever seen since I've been there. It's the largest number of expatriate requests that I have seen. We have another 1,500 that are waiting to be processed, that have already kind of gone through our administrative process in terms of matching the signatures and so forth, that are ready to go out probably tomorrow or Saturday. And we've made special arrangements with the postmaster to be able to get them into the mail on Saturday, so that by Tuesday, the voters making the request will receive them, because there's no delivery on Monday because it's a holiday of some kind. Okay? Now, the last presidential election, 2004, we received and processed 5,000 absentee ballot requests. But I would indicate to you at this time that based upon where we are now in the overall election cycle, which is not very far, about 3 weeks out, we're probably going to reach 10,000 plus requests. Okay? which will be astronomical. Astronomical. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing because people are exercising their due diligence and they're at the right road. On election day, I'm not going to stand here and lie to you and say that you will not have to wait in line. Okay? Now, back in my day, back in the 60s, when we saw lines around a precinct, that was a good thing. It was rah-rah, people are showing up. But anymore, when people see lines around a precinct, oh, I think there's too much trouble, I'm going to go home, and I might come back, and I might not. Let me say this to you. This is not like going through a McDonald's hamburger line. Okay? Therefore, I think people need to come to the polls prepared to stay for a little while. As I indicated, we have hired 200 additional election workers, which brings us up to 600 election workers. There will be 10 election workers at each precinct, okay, to process people through as expeditiously as possible. So please bear in mind that the ballot is extremely long. I've given you a blue sheet of paper. I showed you a sample ballot which we kind of condensed down so that no one can use it later. But let me show you what the actual ballot looks like. It's white, not yellow, although this is yellow. This is a sample of the actual ballot. It is printed on the front and the back. So once you vote the front, you have to turn it on the back to vote. And on the back, of course, are the nonpartisan positions, such as the judgeships, as well as the different state and local proposals. Now, the State of Michigan Election Commission recently did a kind of an unscientific study to try to determine how long it would take the average person to vote this ballot. And based upon their study, it will take the average person between 15 and 20 minutes to vote the ballot. Okay? So, people should not be deterred at all. We cannot control when people go to the polls in terms of time. The only thing I can say is just be prepared for a little bit of a wait. Do not get upset with the election workers because they will be doing the best that they can do in terms of pushing people through. We've come up with some new ideas in terms of how we're going to facilitate it, and we're going to be using those ideas. But please, please be patient. Democracy is not easy. And if indeed you want to make a difference, my dad used to say that anything worth waiting for, anything worth having is worth waiting for. And I would say that this is worth having, so you got to wait for it. Okay? You got to wait for it. The polls will open at every precinct at 7 a.m. promptly. I'm going into a little detail in terms of my internal office administration so that you can feel comfortable in terms of what will happen, and then you can kind of spread the word around the community.